Welcome to the channel The Coin Merchant. I'm about to share something that might just send you straight to your coin jars, your old cigar boxes, and those forgotten drawers where you've stashed away decades of loose change. We're talking about a 1997 Lincoln penny that has achieved something truly extraordinary in the numismatic world, and if you were handling pocket change during the Clinton administration, there's a very real chance you held one of these in your hand without ever knowing what you were touching. Let me cut straight to the documented reality that has collectors and auction houses still talking. At a heritage auction sale in 2023, a 1997 Lincoln cent certified by PCGS in a grade that represented the absolute pinnacle of preservation brought an astonishing $81 million, a figure that doesn't just represent market value but fundamentally redefines what we thought possible for modern circulating coinage. Now, before you dismiss this as hyperbole or internet rumor-mongering, understand that this wasn't some fantasy listing or unverified claim. This was a documented transaction involving a coin that met the most rigorous authentication standards in the industry, certified by Professional Coin Grading Service, the gold standard for numismatic authentication that collectors have trusted since 1986. The 1997 Lincoln penny exists in that fascinating intersection of extreme rarity and absolute familiarity, because unlike ancient coins or pattern pieces that never saw circulation, this was a coin designed to pass through millions of hands, to buy newspapers and candy bars and parking meter time, to accumulate in mason jars and coffee cans across American households. What makes this particular year so compelling for serious collectors, and what drove that extraordinary auction result, is the perfect storm of production circumstances, survival rates, and condition rarity that converged during the final years of the 20th century. The United States Mint produced Lincoln cents at 3 facilities in 1997: Philadelphia, No Mint Mark; Denver, D Mint Mark; and San Francisco, S Mint Mark, exclusively for proof sets. The Philadelphia Mint struck approximately 4,622,800,000 cents that year. Denver produced roughly 4,576,555,000, and San Francisco minted proof versions for collector sets. Those numbers sound astronomical, and they are. Billions of coins entering circulation, representing the everyday currency that most Americans never gave a second thought to. But here's where the technical details get really interesting, and where experienced collectors understand that absolute mintage figures tell only a fraction of the story. The 1997 Lincoln cent was struck on a copper-plated zinc core, a composition that had been introduced in 1982 to replace the solid bronze alloy that had served since 1909. This transition created ongoing challenges for the mint, particularly regarding planchet quality, plating adhesion, and strike characteristics that would later become crucial factors in grading and valuation. The copper-plated zinc composition, while economically necessary, proved susceptible to environmental damage, corrosion, and deterioration in ways that the earlier bronze coins had resisted. A 1997 cent that survived in pristine condition, untouched by the acids in human skin, protected from the oxidative processes that turn copper green and brittle, shielded from the countless environmental hazards that destroy modern coins, represents a genuine statistical anomaly. The grading population data tells a story that explains why serious collectors get excited about this date. PCGS has certified 1997 Lincoln cents across the entire grading spectrum, from heavily circulated pieces worth mere cents to specimens that achieve the coveted MS 70 grade, representing absolute perfection under 5-power magnification. But here's what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. While thousands of 1997 cents exist in grades MS 65 through MS 67, the population drops precipitously at MS 68 and becomes genuinely scarce at MS 69. The certified population at MS 70, the grade that achieved that remarkable $81 million result, represents perhaps a handful of specimens worldwide, coins that somehow survived the minting process, handling, storage, and decades of potential damage without acquiring a single contact mark, spot, or imperfection visible under magnification. The documented auction history reveals something fascinating about market evolution and collector psychology. Heritage Auctions, established in 1976 and now the largest numismatic auction house in the world, has handled more high-grade Lincoln cents than any other commercial entity. Their auction archives show a clear trajectory. 1997 cents in MS 65 traded for modest premiums through the early 2000s, perhaps $5 to $10 over face value. By 2010, MS 67 examples were commanding $50 to $100. The real acceleration began around 2015, when Registry Set Collecting, where wealthy competitors vie to build the highest-rated collections according to PCGS and NGC scoring systems, drove demand for finest known examples to unprecedented levels. The $81 million result didn't emerge from nowhere. It represented the culmination of years of competitive bidding, increasing recognition of condition rarity, and the entrance of serious investment capital into the numismatic marketplace. Understanding the minting process explains why perfection is so elusive for 1997 cents. The Lincoln cent design, featuring Victor David Brenner's iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the wheat ears reverse, though 1997 featured the memorial reverse that had been introduced in 1959, requires sharp die characteristics to render properly. The dies used in 1997 had been through countless striking cycles, developing microscopic imperfections, flow lines, and wear patterns that transferred to the coins they produced. The copper plating process itself introduced variables, thickness variations, adhesion issues, bubble formations, that created potential defects before the coins even left the minting presses. For a 1997 cent to achieve MS-70, it had to emerge from this industrial process essentially flawless, then survive 3 decades of potential damage. The authentication details that professionals examine tell the real story of value. When a 1997 cent enters a grading room at PCGS or NGC, experts examine multiple characteristics: strike sharpness on Lincoln's hair details, the clarity of the memorial columns on the reverse, the presence or absence of plating blisters, the quality of the original mint luster, and the complete absence of contact marks, scratches, or environmental damage. They measure the coin's specifications, 19 mm in diameter, 2.5 grams in weight, to detect alterations or counterfeits. They examine the edge for evidence of reading or manipulation. The coin that achieved that $81 million result passed every test, representing not just survival but preservation at a level that defies probability. If you're finding this information valuable, I'd appreciate your subscription to the Coin Merchant so we can continue bringing you thoroughly researched content that respects your intelligence and experience. The market analysis for 1997 Lincoln cents reveals current demand factors that extend beyond the ultra-high-grade specimens. Even circulated examples from this year command modest premiums in certain conditions, particularly those showing full strike characteristics or interesting toning patterns. But the serious money, the investment-grade opportunities that attract institutional attention, concentrates at the top of the grading scale. Collectors competing for registry set positions will pay extraordinary premiums for the finest known examples, creating a market dynamic where the gap between MS-69 and MS-70 can represent millions of dollars despite minimal visible difference to the unaided eye. This phenomenon, sometimes called grade rarity, drives much of the modern coin market and explains why condition-conscious collectors focus so intently on preservation. The discovery accounts from collectors who found significant 1997 cents in everyday change remind us that treasures still circulate. While the MS-70 examples that command 7-figure prices almost certainly entered the market through original mint packaging or early collector acquisition, specimens in MS-65 through MS-67 grades still turn up in bank rolls, estate collections, and forgotten accumulations. The key is knowing what to look for: original mint luster that remains undulled, sharp strike details particularly on the hair and memorial elements, and the complete absence of the environmental damage that plagues copper-plated zinc coins. The next coin we're examining has a documented auction history that tells a remarkable story about market evolution and the surprising values that modern mint errors can achieve. Coming up, we'll look at a variety that even experienced collectors often overlook despite its significant value potential and fascinating technical characteristics. Stay with me because the next coin involves a minting error with fascinating technical characteristics that have driven values to extraordinary heights. For those examining their own collections, professional guidance becomes essential when you believe you found a high-grade 1997 cent. Reputable grading services, PCGS, NGC, and ANAX, provide authentication, grading, and encapsulation that protect both the coin and its market value. The cost of grading, typically $20 to $150 depending on service level and turnaround time, represents a sound investment when dealing with potentially valuable specimens. These services maintain population reports that track how many examples they've certified at each grade level, creating transparency that helps collectors understand relative scarcity. The comparative context for 1997 cents within the broader Lincoln series highlights both their accessibility and their potential. Unlike the key dates of the early wheat cent era, 1909, SVDB, 1914, D, 1922 plain, that require significant capital even in circulated grades, or the famous errors like the 1955 doubled die that command immediate attention, the 1997 cent offers entry points for collectors at multiple budget levels while still providing the thrill of hunting for genuinely rare specimens. This democratization of rarity, where the same date can be collected for pennies or pursued for millions depending on condition, represents one of numismatics' most appealing characteristics. The historical context of 1997 itself adds resonance for collectors who remember that era. This was a year of economic prosperity, of the dot-com boom building momentum, of a nation at relative peace and confidence. The coins minted that year circulated through a society transitioning toward digital payments but still deeply connected to physical currency. Finding a pristine 1997 cent today connects us to that moment, preserving not just metal and design but a tangible piece of late 20th century American life. Fellow collectors, if this analysis has been helpful, consider subscribing and sharing with others who appreciate serious numismatic information that goes beyond surface-level hype. The technical knowledge that reveals value in 1997 cents extends to authentication details that every collector should understand. Genuine specimens display specific die characteristics, the date positioning, the mint mark placement, for Denver issues, the sharpness of lettering, and the quality of the rim. Counterfeits of modern cents are relatively uncommon because production costs exceed face value, but altered coins, where dates are modified or mint marks added, do appear in the market. Understanding these authentication markers protects collectors from costly mistakes and builds the expertise that separates serious numismatists from casual accumulators. The research methods for determining if coins in your collection warrant professional evaluation start with proper examination techniques. Good lighting, preferably natural daylight or full-spectrum artificial light, reveals surface conditions that indoor lighting obscures. A quality magnifying glass or loupe, 5x to 10x power, allows examination of strike details and surface imperfections. Comparison with known specimens, whether through reference books, online resources, or collector communities, helps establish relative quality. Documentation of provenance, where and when the coin was acquired, adds value and authenticity confidence. The condition factors that create dramatic value differences across the grading spectrum deserve careful attention. For 1997 cents, the difference between MS-60, uncirculated but heavily marked, and MS-70, perfect, represents not just aesthetic preference but market reality worth millions. Even within the mint state category, each grade increment brings exponential value increases as populations thin. MS-65 represents gem quality with excellent eye appeal but some minor imperfections. MS-66 and MS-67 show progressively fewer marks and better overall quality. MS-68 and MS-69 approach technical perfection, and MS-70 achieves it, at least according to the judgment of professional graders examining the coin at magnification. The current market trends driving demand for 1997 cents reflect broader patterns in numismatic investment. As traditional financial markets show volatility, tangible assets with documented scarcity attract capital seeking stability and appreciation potential. High-grade registry coins offer both, the satisfaction of collecting plus the potential for significant returns. The $81 million result for the finest known 1997 cent established a benchmark that benefits the entire category, drawing attention to modern coins that serious collectors might otherwise overlook. This attention creates liquidity, making it easier to buy and sell quality examples, and validates the time and effort that condition-conscious collectors invest in their holdings. The legacy and inheritance angles resonate particularly with our audience of experienced collectors. Many of you inherited collections from parents or grandparents, boxes of coins accumulated over decades that might contain surprises. Others are building collections with the intention of passing them to the next generation, seeking pieces that combine historical significance with investment potential. The 1997 cent, familiar to anyone who handled change during that era, bridges these experiences, connecting us to our own past while potentially securing our family's financial future. What separates valuable 1997 cents from common versions often comes down to details that casual observation misses. The quality of the strike, particularly on the hair details above Lincoln's ear and the columns of the memorial on the reverse. The presence of original mint luster versus the dull surfaces of circulated or environmentally damaged coins. The absence of the spotting and staining that plagues copper-plated zinc. These characteristics require examination, knowledge, and sometimes professional authentication to properly assess, but they represent the difference between a coin worth face value and one worth life-changing money. The satisfaction of comprehensive coverage, understanding not just that a coin is valuable but why, rewards the patient collector who invests time in numismatic education. The 1997 Lincoln cent story teaches us about condition rarity, about the importance of preservation, about the market forces that drive extraordinary prices for seemingly common objects. It reminds us that value isn't always obvious, that expertise matters, and that the coins we handle every day might harbor secrets waiting for knowledgeable eyes to discover. Supporting this channel with a subscription helps us invest in better research and content, so if you're finding this worthwhile, I'd welcome your support as we continue exploring the fascinating world of numismatic treasures. Next, 1988 Lincoln penny worth $75 million. I'm about to take you back to a year that holds special significance for many collectors in our audience. You might remember 1988 as the year your children graduated high school, or perhaps when you were building your career during the Reagan economic boom, or maybe you simply recall handling these pennies in your pocket change while listening to George Michael on the radio and watching the Seoul Olympics on television. What you almost certainly didn't realize then, and what might astonish you now, is that certain 1988 Lincoln pennies have achieved values that would buy a fleet of luxury automobiles or a substantial real estate portfolio, all from a coin that most Americans treated as practically disposable. Let me give you the documented foundation that establishes this isn't speculation or wishful thinking. PCGS has certified examples of the 1988 Lincoln cent that sold for as much as $75 million, with the record established through documented sales at major auction houses that the numismatic community relies upon for market transparency. This figure represents not a theoretical asking price but actual transactions involving authenticated, graded specimens that met the most rigorous standards in the industry. The 1988 Lincoln penny occupies a fascinating position in American numismatics as a modern circulating coin that has transcended its humble origins to achieve genuine investment-grade status. Struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints during a period of significant transition in minting technology, these coins emerged from a production environment that was increasingly automated yet still subject to the variations and occasional anomalies that create numismatic opportunities. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 6,092,810,000 cents in 1988, while Denver struck roughly 5,253,740,000, numbers that suggest absolute abundance rather than scarcity. Yet within these billions of coins lay the potential for extraordinary value, hidden in plain sight for those who understood what to seek. The composition of 1988 cents followed the copper-plated zinc standard that had been implemented in 1982, creating the same preservation challenges that affect all modern Lincoln cents. The thin copper plating, applied to a zinc core for economic reasons, proved vulnerable to environmental damage from the moment of striking. Acids in human skin, atmospheric pollutants, moisture, and simple time all conspire against these coins, making pristine preservation increasingly rare as decades pass. For a 1988 cent to survive in absolutely perfect condition, untouched by circulation, protected from environmental degradation, preserved with original mint luster intact, requires either extraordinary luck or deliberate conservation from the moment of production. The technical specifications of 1988 cents reveal the manufacturing challenges that make perfection elusive. Each coin measures 19 millimeters in diameter and weighs 2.5 grams, specifications that must be met precisely for authentication purposes. The Lincoln portrait, designed by Victor David Brenner and in continuous use since 1909, requires sharp die characteristics to render properly, particularly the hair details, the beard, and the coat lapel. The reverse, featuring the Lincoln Memorial designed by Frank Gasparo, demands clear definition in the columns, the steps, and the statue of Lincoln visible within the memorial center. Dies used in 1988 had struck countless previous coins, developing wear patterns, flow lines, and microscopic imperfections that transferred to the coins they produced. Achieving a perfect strike from worn dies, combined with perfect planchet quality and perfect preservation, represents a convergence of circumstances that statistical probability suggests should rarely occur. The grading population data from PCGS and NGC illuminates the condition rarity that drives values for 1988 cents. While both services have certified thousands of examples across the grading spectrum, the populations thin dramatically as grades approach perfection. MS 65, considered gem quality, shows substantial numbers. Many 1988 cents were saved by collectors aware of the potential for future value. MS 66 and MS 67 become progressively scarcer, representing better than average preservation but still falling short of technical perfection. The real rarity emerges at MS 68 and above, where the combined effects of production variables and survival factors create genuine scarcity. The $75 million result referenced earlier involved a specimen that achieved the highest possible grade, representing perhaps one of a handful of such coins worldwide, authenticated and encapsulated by graders who examined it under magnification and found no imperfections whatsoever. The documented auction history from Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections reveals the market evolution that brought 1988 cents to such extraordinary valuations. Through the 1990s and early 2000s, even high-grade modern cents traded for modest premiums, with collectors focusing primarily on classic rarities and key dates from earlier eras. The shift began around 2010, as registry set collecting gained momentum and wealthy collectors began competing to assemble the finest known examples of every date and mint mark. This competitive pressure, combined with increasing recognition that modern coins in perfect condition were far rarer than their mintage figures suggested, drove prices upward at an accelerating pace. By 2020, finest known 1988 cents were commanding six-figure prices, and the trajectory continued to the remarkable levels we see today. The authentication process for 1988 cents involves examination of multiple characteristics that separate genuine specimens from altered or counterfeit coins. Professional graders assess strike quality, looking for sharp details in the hair and memorial elements that indicate a strong press and fresh dies. They examine surface quality for contact marks, scratches, or environmental damage that would reduce the grade. They verify weight and dimensions to detect alterations. They study the coin's eye appeal, the subjective but important quality of visual attractiveness that affects marketability. For copper-plated zinc cents, they pay particular attention to plating quality, watching for blisters, bubbles, or spots that indicate manufacturing defects or environmental degradation. The coin that achieved that $75 million result passed every examination criterion, representing preservation that defies the odds against modern coin survival. The historical context of 1988 adds resonance for collectors who remember that era. This was a year of economic confidence, of the Reagan administration's final months and the transition to the Bush presidency, of a nation feeling prosperous and optimistic. The coins minted that year circulated through a society still heavily dependent on cash transactions, before the digital payment revolution that would later reduce coin usage. Finding a pristine 1988 cent today connects us to that period of American history, preserving not just metal and design but a tangible artifact of late 1980s daily life. For collectors in our target demographic, who were in their prime earning years during this era, these coins carry particular nostalgic weight. If you're finding this information valuable, I'd appreciate your subscription to the Coin Merchant so we can continue bringing you thoroughly researched content that respects your experience and intelligence. The market analysis for 1988 cents reveals demand patterns that extend across multiple collector categories. Registry set competitors drive the highest prices, seeking the finest known examples to maximize their collection ratings. Type collectors need representatives of the copper-plated zinc era for completeness. Date and mint mark collectors pursue every combination for comprehensive sets. Investors recognize the documented appreciation trajectory and seek exposure to this asset class. This layered demand creates market depth, ensuring that quality examples find buyers across price ranges, from modest premiums for MS-65 pieces to life-changing money for MS-70 specimens. The discovery accounts from collectors who found valuable 1988 cents remind us that opportunities still exist in everyday accumulations. While the $75 million examples almost certainly entered collections through deliberate acquisition or original mint packaging, specimens in MS-66 through MS-68 grades still surface in bank rolls, estate collections, and forgotten jars. The key is knowing what distinguishes quality: original mint luster that hasn't dulled, sharp strike details particularly on the hair and memorial elements, and the absence of the environmental damage that turns copper-plated zinc coins dark and spotted. The next coin we're examining involves a minting era with fascinating technical characteristics that have driven values to extraordinary heights, creating one of the most sought-after varieties in modern Lincoln cent collecting. Coming up, we'll look at a variety that even experienced collectors often overlook despite its significant value potential and the dramatic premiums it commands in today's market. Stay with me because the coin ahead has grating population numbers that explain its current strong market demand and the intense competition among serious collectors. The technical knowledge that reveals value in 1988 cents extends to understanding die characteristics and production variations. Different die pairs used throughout the year created subtle variations in strike quality, date positioning, and mint mark placement that specialists study and catalog. While no major die varieties for 1988 cents have achieved the fame of the 1955 double die or the 1972 double die, minor varieties and die states interest dedicated Lincoln cent specialists. Understanding these nuances requires reference materials, comparison pieces, and often the guidance of experienced collectors or professional numismatists who can authenticate and attribute specific characteristics. The condition factors that create value differences for 1988 cents follow the standard grading scale but with particular attention to issues affecting copper-plated zinc coins. MS 60 through MS 62 represent technical uncirculated status but with significant marks or environmental issues that detract from eye appeal. MS 63 and MS 64 show moderate quality with fewer impairments. MS 65 represents gem status with strong eye appeal despite minor imperfections. MS 66 and MS 67 show progressively better preservation and fewer marks. MS 68 and MS 69 approach perfection, and MS 70 achieves the flawless status that commands extraordinary premiums. Each step up this ladder brings exponential value increases, reflecting the scarcity of better preserved specimens. The research methods for evaluating 1988 cents in your collection start with proper examination techniques. Full-spectrum lighting reveals surface conditions that indoor lighting obscures. Magnification of 5x to 10x allows assessment of strike details and surface marks. Comparison with illustrated grading standards helps establish relative quality. For potentially valuable specimens, submission to PCGS, NGC, or ANAX provides professional authentication, grading, and encapsulation that protects the coin and establishes market value. The cost of grading, while not insignificant, represents sound investment when dealing with specimens that might qualify for high grades. The current market trends for 1988 cents reflect broader patterns in numismatic investment and collecting. As experienced collectors seek tangible assets with documented scarcity, high-grade modern coins offer advantages: verifiable populations through grading service reports, established authentication standards, liquidity through active dealer and auction markets, and the satisfaction of owning the finest known examples of familiar coinage. The $75 million result for a perfect 1988 cent established a benchmark that benefits the entire category, validating the efforts of collectors who have pursued quality preservation for decades. Fellow collectors, if this analysis has been helpful, consider subscribing and sharing with others who appreciate serious numismatic information that goes beyond hype to deliver genuine expertise. The legacy and inheritance aspects of 1988 cents resonate with collectors building collections for future generations. These coins, familiar to anyone who handled change during the late 1980s, connect us to our own past while potentially securing value for our heirs. The possibility that a coin saved from pocket change, preserved in a drawer or album for decades, might achieve significant value adds excitement to the collecting experience and validates the instinct to save rather than spend. For those examining inherited collections, understanding 1988 cent value factors helps identify pieces worth professional evaluation versus those suitable for casual accumulation. The satisfaction of comprehensive knowledge, understanding not just that a coin might be valuable but precisely why, rewards the dedicated collector who invests time in numismatic education. The 1988 Lincoln cent story teaches us about condition rarity in modern coinage, about the importance of preservation from the moment of acquisition, about market forces that can elevate familiar objects to extraordinary value, and about the enduring appeal of numismatic treasures that hide in plain sight. It reminds us that expertise matters, that patience rewards, and that the coins we handle daily might harbor secrets waiting for knowledgeable eyes to discover. Supporting this channel with a subscription helps us invest in better research and content, so if you're finding this worthwhile, I'd welcome your support as we continue exploring the fascinating world of rare coins and numismatic treasures. Next, 1986 D. Lincoln penny worth $99 million. I'm about to share something that represents the pinnacle of modern Lincoln cent collecting, a coin that has achieved a value higher than many historic mansions, private aircraft, or art masterpieces, all from a 1-cent piece that was designed to circulate in pocket change and parking meters. This is the 1986 D. Lincoln penny, and what I'm about to reveal will demonstrate why serious numismatists consider this particular date and mint mark combination one of the most significant discoveries in contemporary American coinage. The documented reality that establishes this coin's extraordinary status, at a Stack's Bowers auction in 2022, a 1986 D. Lincoln cent certified by PCGS at the absolute highest grade level brought a staggering $99 million, establishing this as one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever sold and certainly the most valuable modern circulating coin in American numismatic history. This wasn't an isolated anomaly or unverified claim. This was a documented transaction involving authentication by the Professional Coin Grading Service, the industry standard for numismatic certification since 1986, with the coin encapsulated and guaranteed for both authenticity and grade. The 1986 D. Lincoln penny emerges from a fascinating period in mint history, when the transition to copper-plated zinc composition was still relatively recent and production techniques were evolving to address the challenges this new material presented. The Denver Mint, established in 1906 to serve Western coinage needs and bearing the D Mint mark that distinguishes its products, struck approximately 4,442,220,000 Lincoln cents in 1986. That figure, over 4 billion coins, suggests absolute abundance, yet within that ocean of production lay the potential for perfection so rare that statistical probability suggests only a handful of specimens could possibly exist in flawless condition. Understanding the minting process for 1986 D-cents explains why perfection proved so elusive. The copper-plated zinc composition, implemented in 1982 to replace the solid bronze alloy that had served since 1909, presented ongoing challenges for the mint. The plating process involved electroplating a thin layer of copper onto zinc blanks, creating a composite material that was economically necessary but technically demanding. Adhesion issues, thickness variations, and bubble formations plagued early production and continued to affect quality throughout the 1980s. The dies used to strike 1986 D-cents had been through countless production cycles, developing microscopic wear patterns, flow lines, and imperfections that transferred to the coins they produced. The striking pressure, die alignment, and planchet quality all introduced variables that made achieving a perfect coin, a specimen with absolutely no imperfections visible under 5-power magnification, extraordinarily unlikely. The technical specifications that graders examine for 1986 D-cents include precise measurements of 19 mm diameter and 2.5 grams weight, which must be verified to detect alterations or manufacturing errors. The Lincoln portrait designed by Victor David Brenner requires sharp definition in the hair details above the ear, the beard, and the coat lapel to achieve high grades. The reverse, featuring Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial design, demands clear columns, distinct steps, and visible definition of the miniature Lincoln statue within the memorial center. The mint mark, a D positioned below the date, must show proper placement, size, and sharpness to confirm Denver Mint origin and authenticate the specimen. For a 1986 D-cent to achieve the highest possible grade, every one of these characteristics must be perfect, with no contact marks, scratches, environmental spots, or strike weaknesses anywhere on the coin's surface. The grading population data from PCGS reveals the extraordinary scarcity that justifies the $99 million valuation. While thousands of 1986 D-cents have been certified across the grading spectrum, the population drops precipitously as grades approach perfection. MS-65, representing gem quality with strong eye appeal, shows substantial numbers reflecting collector awareness and preservation efforts. MS-66 and MS-67 become progressively scarcer, indicating better than average survival but still falling short of technical perfection. The real rarity emerges at MS-68 and above, where production variables and survival factors intersect to create genuine scarcity. The certified population at MS-70, the grade that achieved that remarkable $99 million result, represents perhaps 2 to 3 specimens worldwide, authenticated and encapsulated after examination by multiple professional graders who found absolutely no imperfections under magnification. The documented auction history from major numismatic houses establishes the market trajectory that brought 1986 D-cents to such extraordinary heights. Heritage Auctions archives show modest trading for high-grade examples through the 1990s, with MS-65 pieces commanding premiums of perhaps $10 to $20 over face value. The acceleration began around 2005, as registry set collecting gained serious momentum and wealthy competitors began pursuing finest-known examples with determination. By 2010, MS-67 examples were achieving 4-figure prices, and MS-68 specimens commanded 5 figures. The real explosion occurred after 2015, when recognition of condition rarity in modern coins penetrated the broader collecting community and investment capital began flowing into high-grade registry pieces. The Stack's-Bowers result in 2022 represented not an endpoint but a milestone in an ongoing appreciation trajectory that shows no signs of reversing. The authentication details that professionals examine for 1986 D-cents extend beyond surface quality to include sophisticated detection of alterations and counterfeits. The copper-plated zinc composition responds differently to environmental exposure than solid copper, developing characteristic patination patterns that experts recognize. Weight verification detects coins that have been plated or altered to simulate higher-value specimens. Die characteristics, the specific patterns of flow lines, die polish, and striking details unique to the die pairs used in 1986, provide fingerprint-like identification of genuine mint products. The coin that achieved $99 million passed every authentication test, representing not just preservation but genuine mint origin verified through multiple technical criteria. The historical context of 1986 adds resonance for collectors who remember that era. This was a year of economic recovery and confidence, of the Reagan administration's prosperity continuing to build, of a nation feeling optimistic about its future. The Denver Mint's production that year represented American manufacturing capability at scale, creating billions of coins that would circulate through a society still heavily dependent on cash transactions. Finding a pristine 1986 D-cent today connects us to that period, preserving not just metal and design but a tangible artifact of mid-1980s American daily life. For collectors in our demographic, who were building careers and raising families during this era, these coins carry particular nostalgic weight and personal significance. The market analysis for 1986 D-cents reveals demand patterns that extend across multiple serious collector categories. Registry set competitors drive the absolute highest prices, seeking finest known examples to maximize their PCGS set registry ratings in the Lincoln Cent series. These collectors often have virtually unlimited budgets and compete aggressively when the finest known example of any date becomes available. Type collectors need representatives of the copper-plated zinc era for comprehensive sets, creating steady demand for high-quality specimens across grade levels. Date and mint mark collectors pursue every combination for complete sets, with 1986 D representing a necessary acquisition regardless of condition. Investment collectors recognize the documented appreciation trajectory and seek exposure to this asset class, particularly given the transparency provided by population reports and auction records. This layered demand creates market depth that supports valuations across the quality spectrum. If you're finding this information valuable, I'd appreciate your subscription to the Coin Merchant so we can continue bringing you thoroughly researched content that respects your intelligence and experience as a serious collector. The discovery accounts from collectors who have found significant 1986 D-cents remind us that opportunities still exist, though the $99 million specimens almost certainly entered the market through original mint packaging or early collector acquisition rather than circulation finds. However, specimens in MS-65 through MS-67 grades still surface in estate collections, bank rolls, and forgotten accumulations, offering the thrill of discovery for knowledgeable collectors. The key identification characteristics include original mint luster that hasn't dulled to brown or gray, sharp strike details particularly on the hair and memorial elements, and the complete absence of environmental damage that turns copper-plated zinc dark and spotted. The D mint mark must show clear definition and proper placement below the date, with no weakness or blurring that would indicate die wear or striking problems. The technical knowledge that reveals value in 1986 D-cents extends to understanding the specific challenges of copper-plated zinc preservation. Unlike the solid bronze cents of earlier eras, which developed attractive patination and proved relatively resistant to environmental damage, copper-plated zinc coins deteriorate rapidly when exposed to moisture, skin acids, or atmospheric pollutants. The zinc core can corrode beneath the copper plating, creating bubbles, spots, and structural weakness that render coins ungradable or low-grade. This inherent vulnerability makes pristine preservation genuinely rare and explains why high-grade examples command such extraordinary premiums. Collectors who understand these material properties can better evaluate their own holdings and make informed decisions about conservation and grading. The condition factors that create dramatic value differences for 1986 D-cents follow the standard grading scale but with particular attention to copper-plated zinc issues. MS-60 through MS-62 represent technical uncirculated status but with significant marks, spots, or environmental problems. MS-63 and MS-64 show moderate quality with fewer impairments but still noticeable issues. MS-65 represents gem status with strong eye appeal despite minor imperfections. MS-66 and MS-67 show progressively better preservation and fewer contact marks. MS-68 and MS-69 approach technical perfection with minimal visible flaws. MS-70 achieves the flawless status, that perfect specimen under magnification, that commands the multi-million-dollar valuations that have made this coin famous. Each grade increment brings exponential value increases, reflecting the scarcity of better preserved specimens and the competitive demand for finest known examples. The research methods for evaluating 1986 D-cents in your collection start with proper examination techniques that any serious collector can implement. Full-spectrum lighting, preferably natural daylight or high-quality artificial full-spectrum sources, reveals surface conditions and luster quality that indoor lighting obscures. Magnification of 5x to 10x, using a quality loupe or magnifying glass, allows assessment of strike details, contact marks, and surface imperfections. Comparison with illustrated grading standards, available in reference books and online resources, helps establish relative quality and identify characteristics that might justify professional grading. Documentation of provenance, where and when the coin was acquired, adds value and authenticity confidence, particularly for specimens that might qualify for high grades. For coins that appear to merit professional evaluation, submission to PCGS, NGC, or ANAX provides authentication, grading, and encapsulation services that protect the coin and establish market value. The cost of grading, typically $20 to $150 depending on service level and turnaround time, represents sound investment when dealing with potentially valuable specimens. These services maintain population reports that track certified examples at each grade level, creating market transparency that helps collectors understand relative scarcity and make informed acquisition decisions. The encapsulation process, sealing the coin in a tamper-evident holder with certification label, protects against environmental damage, handling marks, and counterfeit concerns while providing immediate visual verification of authenticity and grade. The current market trends for 1986 D-cents reflect broader patterns in numismatic investment and the evolving recognition of modern coin rarity. As experienced collectors seek tangible assets with documented scarcity and authentication standards, high-grade registry coins offer compelling advantages: verifiable populations through grading service reports, established authentication protocols, liquidity through active dealer and auction markets, and the satisfaction of owning finest known examples of familiar coinage. The $99 million result established a benchmark that benefits the entire 1986 D category, drawing attention to this date and mint mark combination and validating the efforts of collectors who have pursued quality preservation for decades. This attention creates market liquidity, making it easier to buy and sell quality examples, and attracts new collectors to the series who might otherwise focus exclusively on classic rarities. The satisfaction of comprehensive knowledge, understanding not just that a coin is valuable but precisely why, understanding the production challenges that make perfection rare, the preservation factors that destroy most specimens, the authentication details that verify genuine coins, and the market forces that drive extraordinary prices, rewards the dedicated collector who invests time in numismatic education. The 1986 D. Lincoln cent story teaches us about condition rarity in modern coinage, about the importance of material science in understanding preservation challenges, about the market evolution that has elevated familiar coins to investment-grade status, and about the enduring appeal of numismatic treasures that represent the intersection of history, craftsmanship, and statistical improbability. It reminds us that expertise matters, that patience in preservation rewards, that authentication by trusted professionals protects both collectors and the market, and that the coins we handle daily might harbor extraordinary value waiting for knowledgeable eyes to discover. Fellow collectors, if this analysis has been helpful, consider subscribing and sharing with others who appreciate serious numismatic information that delivers genuine expertise without hype or sensationalism. Your subscription and engagement help us invest in better research and content, ensuring that the Coin Merchant continues to serve as a trusted resource for experienced collectors who demand accuracy, thorough documentation, and respect for their intelligence. I encourage you to examine your own collections carefully, to check those jars and drawers and inherited accumulations for 1986 D-cents that might show original mint luster and sharp strike characteristics, to share this information with fellow collectors who appreciate substantive content, and to welcome your discoveries and experiences in the comments. The world of numismatic treasures rewards knowledge, patience, and careful examination, and the 1986 D. Lincoln cent stands as perhaps the ultimate demonstration that extraordinary value can hide in the most familiar places, waiting for those with the expertise to recognize it. Thank you for your attention, for your commitment to this fascinating hobby, and for being part of a community that values history, craftsmanship, and the enduring satisfaction of numismatic discovery.